A diverse group from the neighborhood went into the hills for target practice and encountered feral dogs. On the street, people are expected to fear and hate everyone but their own kind. But with all of us armed and watchful, people started, but they let us alone. Our neighborhood is too small for us to play those kinds of games. Despite the general harmony in the neighborhood, an argument broke out between the Mosses and the Talcuts. Peter Moss is the worst because he always trying to be like his father, and his father father is a total shit. I don't use those type of words.
But you say it well.
we learn more about the Moss family. The Mosses are always blaming other people for whatever they do wrong. So they tend to have disputes outstanding with most of us. Richard Moss is an engineer for one of the big commercial water companies, so he can afford to pick up beautiful young homeless women and live with them, and polygamous relationships. He has 3 wives and children with each of them. Richard has pieced together his own religion and claims that God wants men to be patriarchs, rulers, and protectors of women, and fathers as many children as possible. Some middle-class men prove they're men by having a lot of wives in temporary and permanent relationship. Some upper-class men prove they're men by having one wife and a lot of beautiful, disposable young servant girls. Nasty.
Okay.
That sounds like some Prince stuff to me. Some Nino Brown shit. Okay, do real men need validation of their manhood? Polygamy offers them. In your opinion, why or why not? Well, we do have a religion. Sound like Mormons, you ask me, but hey, some people did make up their. Y'all ever seen Escape? You ever seen the Escape Polygamy, the reality show that's on right now? It's real deep, but
No.
it's a good show.
I used
Well,
to
I
watch
think
Big Love.
okay. What? Okay.
It was on HBO, Big Love, or Showtime.
No, real men does not need the validation of polygamy. It offers them. Um, I think what people need is love, and I think they do different things because they're not getting it, or they have their own value system and why they
What?
do certain things. Yeah, I think when you say do real men need validation of their manhood with polygamy, uh, polygamy offers them, in your opinion.
Yeah.
I think the polygamy thing is a power thing. I don't think it has anything to do with love. I think it's more power than anything else.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else?
I agree.
And in that passage, she's talking about polygamy and man sharing and having a chick on the side and not just the not just concept of being married to several people.
I think the the thing that really still shocks me, even after reading this book before, about this little world, is that people are still a hot ass mess. Like they provoke conflict and drama, polygamy and incest and rape and poverty. Like I had always hoped that maybe if things got really bad, people would adapt and become better people, but that's obviously not the case. I don't think it's the case now, and I don't think Octavia Butler thought it was the case, which is why she wrote the book this way. And so in terms of the polygamy question, I think it's just about power, and I personally don't know a moment, even those who like know their husbands or boyfriends are cheating or whatever, who like to share. You know, I don't need multiple men to feel powerful. I don't know. I think we let men get away with so much. I literally have to talk myself out of thinking they're incapable, because it seems like there's always some type of exception for them. Oh, boys will be boys. You know, they take a little longer for school. Why? Like, I think that's so weak. It's so unattractive. You know, I don't know. And obviously patriarchy and all of that is the reason why men get to do dumb stuff like that. But
I think this is this whole conversation not gonna fare well with me. Yeah. If y'all want me to bow out of the conversation for 5 minutes,
you stay right there.
Okay.
I'm done.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say, you made me think of, there was some society where the woman had multiple male partners.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I can't remember which one it was.
It's one of the Pacific Asian islands. Yeah. Oh, there's different cultures out there. Culture anthropology is one of those classes I love.
Well, let's see if Georgette was finished making her comment.
Yeah.
Well, but what I have to say is that maybe in the westernized version of the multiple partner arrangement, it became less than just taking care of the group. You know, all these children belong to all of us, and we'll take care of everyone as our family, extended or otherwise. To powerful, this is all mine. You know, and I got my eye on that 13-year-old, and you know, when she's ready, I'm going to marry her off. You know, to other people, because this is a power play like the FDLS, and that's why you got women trying to run away and they can't. But you even have that in I can't remember what different sects are, but that's a kind of philosophy that's being promoted in some black nationalist sects. You know, and something from an African belief, whichever tribe they were taking it from, but you're in America. And so if you're still having those misogynistic tendencies toward, you know, the women you claim that are part of your clan or group or whatever, you're not really promoting anything positive for your children to grow up in, because now you're an outsider. You're not really functioning within the society.
Right.
And so I think that with the disillusion of this society that Olivia Butler's talking about, well, that just sounds quite natural. We've seen it in a whole bunch of movies and stories where, you know, the society goes to hell, and the first thing you know is the strongest man, you know, or he's grabbing up as many women as he can.
Yeah.
You know, by force or coercion, or maybe they just feel it's safer to be with this guy because he has the resources.
Right, and in this story, he has the resources. But, you know, in a lot of real life stories, he grabs up all those women and then he puts them to work.
Right?
You know, they start bringing in the resources.
That's true. That's true.
So, you know, it can take a lot of different forms. But I'm glad you brought up that point, though, Georgette, because I think that's, you know, I think that's exactly right. That it depends on how it's structured and what your goals are and how you're doing it. I mean, I think, and and you all have heard me talk before about I'm not at all comfortable with this whole idea of ownership of people. I don't care what you call it love, call it what you want. It makes me uncomfortable. Did you see that story I posted about the man that killed his ex-wife and her new husband
And
and
children.
his 5 children,
Yeah.
and or what was it, Venita? 6 children, and the
Yes.
oldest one of them was his child.
Yes.
Um, but that kind of thing happens all the time, of men killing women and children, and I'm sure there's some stories out there of women killing men.
Oh yeah.
I know there are, but but statistically, it's mostly men killing women, and that's coming from this attitude of I own you, and so if I start to lose control, if you start to seek some kind of freedom, um, then that's going to be a problem for me, and so that but that's a part of, again, the Western paradigm of how we look at people. So that whole thing makes me uncomfortable. Now I'm not a part, even though I play a sister wife on Facebook, I am not a part of any multiple relationships. I'm really not into that. But I am really into looking at reality and looking at, what do people actually do? And, ever since Venita and I were little girls, there was always a whole lot of man sharing going on.
Yeah.
People weren't open about it. They weren't honest about it, but they knew, and so that's what I have a problem. I have a problem with pretending like something's not happening when it's happening. To me, if you're going to be into man sharing, then say I'm into man sharing, and do it openly and honestly, so that you can talk about it and figure out what the boundaries are, figure out what you want it to look like. Just like I said to Randie when she was talking about the sexual abuse in her family. She can stop it as a legacy because she's dealing with it on a conscious level. It's when it's on a subconscious level that these things become so destructive to our lives. So, yeah, I think what Richard Moss has going on there is pretty nasty. But I'm not sure it has to always be that way. So, anybody else on that question?
Well, I just, from a historic point of view and the start of this country, based on slavery and how many slaves you had determined your wealth. And you could populate a whole lot of babies, and that would increase your wealth. So it just seems to me the historic aspect of how men reproduce in this country. It's always on my mind lately. Just to kind of say, I'm wondering how much of raping black women at night moves into a lot of the rape and the incest in our homes, and also in terms of, I don't know, just a lot of ugly seed planted in so many different ways, because it just seems like if rape is more about power than it is about sex, and you're a black man and you know that your women and your daughters are being raped, when you need some power, what might you do? And then that brings it indoors. So I don't know. I just like looking at what's going on in our homes in the context of what has happened to us in this country. And that's what I just, the thought goes in my mind. So if anybody has any thought about that, that would help me out. Or not.
Yeah, no, there's definitely a relationship. Somebody on my Facebook page was making that point yesterday when I posted the article about the guy that killed his ex-wife and family, and I cast it, you know, in the context of patriarchy, and said something about domestic violence, and so her response was very similar to what you're saying, and she was saying that she had experienced domestic violence, and she thinks that we don't appreciate how much external pressures, you know, become the impetus for the violence that plays out in the home. And I understand. I mean, I don't know if I was really completely sympathetic to it, but I understand it. But I guess I say I'm not completely sympathetic to it because my attitude is, you know, I ain't trying to be your whipping boy. Now, you know, I'm sorry if you're having problems on the outside, but you need to go, you know, kick a dog or something. I'm not the one. And so, yeah, you know, I understand that we're all under, you know, varying degrees of pressure. Life is very stressful. You know, one thing I like about this book, Randie, is there's so much stuff going on there, and it's hard to keep track of it all. But really, you know, what she did was plucked events right out of the current day news. In fact, the version of the book that I have includes an interview in the back with Octavia Butler, as well as a guide for reading groups. And so, you know, that really was her intent, to make the book as realistic to life, you know, that as we know it. And so, in reality, there is a lot of stuff going on. It's, you know, we're in a pressure cooker. Nevertheless, as adults, we all have to find ways to cope and deal with our pressure. And the fact that we're stressed out doesn't buy us the right to, you know, go shoot somebody because you want to, kill somebody because you want to, beat up on somebody because you want to. Those are crimes. And so, you know, I think we've made a lot of excuses for black men and black women, but primarily black men, in the home, because we know all the stuff that they're dealing with out there. But it's, you know, it's gotta stop. Just like as Randie's saying about, you know, we make excuses when they can't do well in school, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And I believe that for black men to raise their standards and become the stronger people that I know they can be, black women have to stop making excuses for their poor behavior. Anybody else?
I'm sorry. I guess just maybe I misheard something, but for me, what I'm feeling and what I'm saying is, you cannot heal what you're not willing to face. So it was just a matter of tracing the roots and not necessarily making excuses for women or for men.
Oh yeah, no, and I wasn't saying you're making excuses. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm not into excuses. No.
Yeah, but no, there's definitely an unbroken line. I mean, if you look at the issue of how black women beat their children,
Oh yeah.
you know, so mercilessly sometimes. you know, and then go back to slavery and look at how we were beating our children because we were trying to protect them from the beating they were going to get from massa.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, best I kick your ass.
But
So
you know,
you
Well,
put
we
it
tell
through
them,
your head.
and we say that the same day. We say that now in respect to I beat you and discipline you now, so the cops they won't kill you.
Right.
Well, excuse me, I beg to differ. I think that people, I have a problem with folks that hit children. I think they're bullies. We're in 2015.
Well, we do now, but one time in the 70s.
Yeah, we're not in slavery, and I didn't feel like beating my sons was going to save them from anything other than being a bully. So maybe I'm not on that page.
We do that now. I mean, we feel that way now, but when I was growing up in the 70s, I mean, you know, hey, when people know better, they do better. But that was a norm at that particular time.
Yeah, you're right. But let Venita finish her point, Joelle.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm sorry, Miss Venita.
No, I just don't believe it. I've never been spanking. I've never had a spanking, and I was born in 1959. So I don't know. I just have very strong feelings about that. There was a person that brought that issue up that used to be a part of our book club, and I was just so shaken by it. You know, they actually used the word whooping. You know, imagine yourself being a 5-year-old and someone standing over you that you depend on to feed you, clothe you, give you everything you need, that's pounding on you. What is that? That's bullying. So I just don't believe in that. I've never believed in it. No, I understand that during slavery there was a reason for it, was to protect you, you know, to keep you in line so the master wouldn't, you know, kill you. But that's been going a long time ago. And the excuse, now, if I know better, I'll do better, I don't buy that either. I think a lot of adults that have children are taking their anger out on their children, their own frustrations out on their children. A lot of it has nothing to do with disciplining that child or teaching that child lessons. Because don't teach anyone lessons by pounding on them. I know plenty of folks that got beat down, and I don't think some of them are better or less better off, or less better off than, you know, but from being spanked, or I should say with black folks or a lot of folks in terms I heard whooping. It's just disgusting. It really is. It's disgusting. And I don't see lessons to learn from it.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. You hit me, I don't know anything but pain. Pain does not teach me anything. It doesn't teach me how to read. It doesn't teach me how to write. It doesn't form my moral compass. It doesn't give me any values. It doesn't do anything for me. But you just hit me. You know, so I just don't understand today, and especially where that could be of any use.
Right. Well, it's another one of those pieces of dirty laundry, you know, that we don't want to deal with in the community.
Well, I mean, I think, you know, it's painful and everything, but I go back to some people just don't know. I mean, it's hard to fathom when people just don't know. When people just don't know and they don't see anything different, they just don't know. And there's nothing that you and I, if they don't know any better, sometimes, you know, dumb do dumb. And that's it. And unless somebody break that cycle, and it's kind of hard for people to say, for instance, if you look back into one of the plagues and they say, oh, the reason why it happened because people didn't use sanitation. They was like, that was dumb, but the whole world didn't know. You understand what I'm saying? They did not know until somebody figured it out. Until people actually figure it out or break the cycle, they just don't know. And people still yet live today and still don't know
Right.
because they've not been taught any better.
Right.
As I said before, I believe a lot of people know, and I'm not going to make that excuse. I think they take out their anger, their crap on their children. There are a lot of egg donors, there are a lot of sperm donors. So I don't believe that for the most part most people don't know. I believe that they do know. Unfortunately, they have a whole bunch of shit with them that has nothing to do with their child. So their child is vulnerable. They can't do anything about it. They got to stay there and take it. So they take that anger on their child. That's all I have to say about that.
And let's move on. And child neglect, of course, was one of the themes in our reading through the story of Amy Dunn.